Okay, so tonight's pasuk is a little difficult, I think. I haven't learned it yet. Someone asked me, by the way, someone texted me from the shiur and asked if I prepare the Mishlei ahead of time. So I wanted to just state for the record, I think for the first maybe half a year that I gave this shiur, like 3.5 years ago, then I prepared everything in advance. And then what happened was later on that year, then my students in yeshiva told me that the shiur is better when I don't prepare because then we learn through all the ideas together and like we get that benefit of like the experience of working through it together and like learning how to like wrestle with the Mishlei pasuk. So I stopped preparing the idea ahead of time. And the only thing I do is I prepare the source sheet ahead of time, and when I'm copying and pasting the mafarshim, I do try to look at which mafarshim look like they're going to be fruitful, and sometimes I don't even have time to do that. Like today, I did not have time to do that. And then the only exception is if it's a pasuk that I regularly teach in high school, in which case I'm walking in with a preconceived notion and I try to think about it fresh. But sometimes it's not always easy. So this one is not one that I teach, and this is not one that I prepared. And I think the first half is going to seem obvious, and the second half is going to seem I have no idea what it's saying. So let's go. 13:15. Seichel tov yitain chen v'derech bodim esan. So the second half has weird words, but how would you translate the first half?
Um, a good thought, a good mind.
Okay, good mind is closer, I think. I'd say good intelligence,
Intellect. Okay,
right?
intelligence.
Intellect. Yeah, good intelligence or intellect, I think is probably the most accurate Hebrew word. Yeah.
Gives grace,
Yeah,
benefit.
grace, favor. Um, Actually, I should check the BDB for that also. Let's see what the BDB says for Chain. Um, Favor or grace. Yeah. All right. Let's just stick with those. Um, V'derech Bogdim Esan.
And the way of, I guess, those who act treacherously.
Okay. Those who act. Actually, let's just use the common English word traitors. Even though it's fine. Yeah.
Uh, is I don't know what ason means. Is it
Yeah.
like a type of object?
No, it is I think it's an adjective. It's a name in Hebrew also. Eitan is a very common name, Israeli name at least. Anyone know? Oh, okay, interesting. So I have a feeling if you click on the word Eitan, you get strength. Okay, let's just see how it translates it. Oh, that's interesting. Permanence or endurance. Okay, yeah. So that's interesting. I guess I was wrong about that.
Oh,
Uh,
fig. That's the word that I knew.
what was that?
Fig. That's the word that I think I
Oh,
knew.
fig?
Is that a
Like
related word to this? Like figs?
no, te'ina. I mean, it's the same letter,
Oh, yeah. Okay,
like
fine.
anagrams. Yeah, is so I'm gonna say strong. Okay, or strength. I'm not sure if it's. See, I'm not sure if it's a noun or a verb. Hold on, let me just click here again. Um, Adjective. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean verb. I meant adjective. So I think it's an adjective. So is strong. Okay, but we're gonna see from the Mefarshim that strong is not necessarily the clearest translation. Okay, so our minimalist mafarshim here say Mitzudas says Asan is inyan chozek. Okay, so he says it is strength. Kamo Asan moshavech. Okay, Sadigon says kashe, which it means firm or hard. Okay. And then Targum, I am gonna it says strong also. Okay, I'm gonna ignore the rest of the Targum because I did not have time to look that up. Okay, art. Oh, I did not have an art scroll on me. So if anyone has an art scroll, you can supplement it for me if you'd like. Yeah, there's no art scroll around here. So all Torah's translation says good understanding wins favor. That's interesting. But the way of the traitor is hard. Alter says good insight gives grace, but the way of traitors is their ruin. Now, Alter is going to pull an Alter here. In his commentary, he says the received text, that's the one according to the Masorah, reads oddly, Eitan is staunch or is strong. Staunch is a good word. Staunch. The translation, meaning his translation, follows the Septuagint and the Syriac, which appear to have Adam, their ruin, in the Hebrew text from which they translated. Okay, so he's going off of a different Hebrew text. Anyone there have an art scroll that they can read from? If not, then we'll just ignore our scroll this time. Okay, well, if you do find one, then go ahead and chime in. Okay, so let's ask our questions. Yes, my dad is first.
Is there any intelligence other than good intelligence?
Okay, that's a good question. So what is the meaning of good intelligence? Okay, is there any other kind? And if so, what is it? Yes, Isaiah.
I have the article.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Good sense provides grace.
Yep.
And second, but the way of the faithless is hard.
Okay, but the way of the faithless is hard. Yeah, I think we've seen that before. That our school loves translating bogeid as faithless. Okay. Yeah, let's we'll keep that up there in case it becomes relevant, but for now we'll just go with the straight translation. Thank you. Okay. Isaiah, did you also have a question, or that was hand raised for the art school?
No, that's from before.
Okay. Ayala.
So what does a sun mean? And also, I guess I assume from it's the second half that it's a bad thing, but flame shot, is it a good or bad thing?
Okay. So what does a sun? Okay, what does a sun mean? And then the pasuk makes this seem like a bad thing, but is it a bad thing? And if so, how? Yeah, Isaiah.
So we asked what is the meaning of good intelligence, but is this an instance of like a good decision, a good like instance of intelligence, or is this describing like the quality a person has that they have like a good intellect in general?
Yeah.
Like, is this like an expression or like a quality?
Okay, so I think the way I think you're asking more than what I'm about to type, but I think the way that I would like to get to your question is asking like, what is the decision making scenario here? Okay, is each half talking about a particular like action or expression of these qualities, or is it talking about the qualities themselves? And if the latter, how does this express itself in an action? Yeah. Yeah, Ayala.
So what is the situation specifically in the first half, and like who's giving grace to who?
Okay,
Or
yeah.
chayin to who?
Specifically in the first half, who is giving chayin to who? Yeah, I'll just say chayin here. Good. Chayin. Oh, this is the first shiur of this week, and it's dedicated to Chain and Max for their wedding. So a very appropriate pasuk. But yeah, okay. But yeah, all right. That's besides the point. What was I was gonna say one more point though. What was I gonna say? Hold on. I think it was related to the last thing. Oh yeah. No. All right, never mind. Go ahead. Yeah, Ariel.
Yeah, what kind of intelligence are we talking about over
Okay,
here?
yeah. I think that's what I was going to ask. I was going to ask that about the third one. Yeah, what does seichel, okay, intelligence, mean? And that, it's funny. It's not a word that we see in Mishlei as much as like chachma or das. I'm curious, how much do we see just the raw word seichel in Mishlei? 6 times. Okay, that's not like, so let's compare that, for example, to okay, well, how many times does it say chacham in Mishlei? Anyone want to guess? Guess a number?
150?
75.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and guess. I'm gonna guess 55. I mean, not 55. I'm gonna guess around the 50s also. Oh, 46. Okay. Yeah, but I bet it says chachma a lot also. I just gotta check this. I know this is a distracting side quest, but chachma it uses 39 times. Okay, so you combine the two, then that's a good 80. And then musar is 30. Yeah. Okay, fine. So seichel is not, the point I'm trying to make here is seichel is not the most common. Oh, there's one more also I wanted to look of haskel is also in Mishlei. Where is it? Lakachas Musar Haskel. Thanks. Is use the Haskel more than seichel. Okay, fine. So seichel is not one of the dominant Mishlei words. So let's just say, what does it mean? And I'm gonna go ahead and say like, this is the kind of a side question, like what is, and we might not answer it. What is seichel's place in Mishlei? In other words, like I have a very firm understanding of what a chacham is in Mishlei and what a tzaddik is and what a navon is. Seichel is like I'm not just used to seeing, so I'll ask that. Yeah, Isaiah.
Okay, so in this pasuk, it looks to me like seichel tov and derech bogdim are like the two things being compared.
Yeah.
So is seichel tov a derech also? Is that
Okay.
I guess it's related to the question I asked before.
Okay,
Like,
so
yeah.
let's ask this question also as a broader one than the way you asked it, because just to capture it more, which is, what is the relationship between the two halves? Okay, and then I'll include your question, which is that that it describes a a derech of the bogdim. Okay, but is good seichel seichel also a derech? Okay. Is it okay, what would be the other possibility, by the way, of in other words, if you're gonna make these into direct opposites, then the way of the bogdim and then the way of good intellect, that would be one way to read it. What would be another way to make it like direct opposites?
It's like not a path at all, not a way at all.
Okay, so you could say it's not a way at all, but then what would, if you were to make it into an opposite? It might not be clear what I'm asking. Like in other words, you could make them opposites by adding the word derech in the first part, but I think you can make it opposite by through another maneuver.
Something that's like the opposite of a derech, like a place.
That
Not
would be an
sure.
opposite of derech, but I think that would just like make the two pasukim like halves totally separate. I was gonna say you could say that seichel tov is describing a person, okay, and it's the derech of the bogdim and the even better, the seichel of the good person versus the derech of the bogdim. Okay, that might be another way, because we've seen before. In fact, I think we've seen in our same chapter this year. Yeah, mipuri pi-ish yochal tov. No, maybe I'm getting that mixed up. Never mind. I'm getting mixed up with another thing. So I should say, or is where's this? Or is seichel tov? Sorry, is seichel tov? Okay, or tov, describing a person, just like bogdim is describing a person. Okay, or are they opposites in some other way? Yeah. Okay, next is my mom.
Related to question 2, who's the audience, and also as was said, who's giving chen to whom, but I don't know how to phrase that. Is
Okay,
that a
so
separate
I have
question?
who is giving chen to whom,
Right.
and then who is the
But
audience?
okay, thanks.
Unless I was misunderstanding your question.
No, that was I was going to add who is the audience, but I didn't know if it was covered in number 2.
Yeah, no, I think who's the audience should be a separate question. That's good.
Okay.
Okay, what else? We didn't. Ayal.
What is the practical application of this?
Yeah. What? I'll tack that onto this. What is the practical application of this? Ariel?
Yeah, did we ask what the chen is?
No, we did not. I felt like we were missing a question. Okay, so a definition question. What is chen in this context? And then I'd also ask, how does seichel tov give chen?
And also, like, what's the scenario?
Yeah, that we asked here.
Oh,
Mom, do you have another question, or is your hand raised from last time? I'll assume it's from last time. Ayala?
It could be we asked this already, but what is the definition of bogeid in this context?
Yes, we did not ask that. That's the question I've been avoiding. Okay, that is the difficult question. I don't know if you were there for the bogeid wars of 2022. I don't know if that was in 2022. Let me just see where we had these.
The days where when Zach
These
was
were
in
in the Zach era, yeah. Bogeid. Those were good times, but also challenging times. Yeah, we had bogeid twice in chapter 11, and we have not seen it since. Oh no, we did. We saw it in the second chapter or second pasuk of our chapter. Yeah, difficult, slippery term, that bogeid. Okay, so where am I going to put this one? Let's put it over here. What is the definition of bogeid in this context? Yeah, Ariel. Subject, yeah. Okay, what is the subject of this pasuk? Okay, so this is the Rabbi Moskowitz question, which is if someone said, what is the pasuk about? Or if you were to, I thought of a different way to ask this, by the way. If you were to, like Rav Hirsch organized Mishlei based on like topic, like jealousy psukim, friendship psukim, wisdom psukim. So what heading would you put this under? Like what's the in the table of contents?
Stubbornness.
Yeah, I mean that's a possibility.
Bogeid
I think
pasukim.
stubborn is a good translation as well. Okay, like we say, like because the Metudas said kasha, so kshe oraf, stiff-necked people is that type of stubborn. Okay, next is my dad.
A traitor indicates a rebelliousness against some sort of authority,
Yeah.
and it's puzzling.
Okay, yeah. So I'm going to tack that onto what's the definition? A traitor against whom or what? Isaiah?
I wanted to ask, so I know you said there were bogeid conflicts in the past, and you translated it as traitor.
Yeah.
And the definition that you had up at the beginning didn't really, like, traitor to me, in my mind, indicates like it's like a national level thing, or it's like going against a group's opinion or something like that, like you're betraying your friends. But yeah, treacherous to me
Okay.
is a more general term than
Right.
traitor.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I guess I'm not as bothered by using traitor for different things, but I hear what you're saying. Oh, that's not how you spell it? Treacherously. Treacherously. Okay. Okay. So I think we have the main questions here. Yeah. So now we break down in tears, or no? If it sounds like I'm not optimistic, it's not that I'm not optimistic. It's that bogeid is just a slippery, hard concept. It's ASON. Yeah. Okay, so let's stop and think and try to figure this out. And again, I'll just remind you of the methodology, three-way machlokus, about when you have a easy side and a difficult side, and which one do you start with? So we have, in my memory of my yeshiva days, we have Rabbi Mann, who says start with the easy side because your mind is already going that way. Rabbi Moskowitz says start with the difficult side because if you start with the easy side that your mind is already going in, then you're not going to be able to break out and see the other side. And then Rabbi Chait said there's no rules when it comes to thinking. Yeah. Let's think. Oh, I forgot to. What am I doing? I forgot to paste this into the chat. Let me do that. Okay. See, the difficulty with psukim like this is like you have to go one or two directions. Either you have to assume that we don't know what bogeid is, and maybe even seichel, and then like reverse engineer it, like work it out from the results, or you have to like just take a plant your flag. Just take a stance and say, well, I wanted to define seichel this way, and I wanted to define bogeid that way, and then we'll see if the idea works out. So either way is kind of an uncertain path, but that's where we're at. Okay, Ariel, what do you got?
Okay, I don't know why I'm having an easy time with this. I'm not sure. I don't know. Maybe my seichel is made up a little differently, but no, I'm just half kidding. But
Okay.
okay, no, but seriously. So I think I want to define seichel like I want to define seichel as it's your approach to thinking. It's like your method of thinking
Okay.
versus like chachma. Maybe you could say it just means your depth of knowledge,
Okay.
right? I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Okay. Look, we don't actually have to define chachma here, so let's just
Whatever,
go.
but like
what you
whatever,
think
like
is-
you know,
yeah.
I think there's I think it's interesting that the pasuk is saying good intelligence, like a good method of thinking or whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe because like there it's like a derek, like there's a good way of thinking and there's a
Okay,
bad
that's
way
good.
of thinking,
Okay,
right?
that's a good
It's
step.
just
Yeah.
it's an approach, right? So I mean, I guess just to create a case, it's like like if you I think maybe the subject of the pasuk is telling you that there are times where you need to change your method of thinking in specific areas, and if you don't, you're being a traitor, bogeid to the truth.
Interesting. Okay, so are you saying then that the derech bogdim is if you attempt to apply your normal way of thinking when it shouldn't be applied, then you are being bogeid? Is that like the approach you're taking?
I think so. Oh, let me just try to say it again.
Sure.
I want to say that like the goal in thinking is to find truth,
Okay.
the objective truth, right?
Yeah.
And God gave you a mind, and there is an objective way of yeah, there's a way of thinking, right? There's a system of thinking. There's a proper methodology, and sometimes, depending on the circumstances or depending on the area you're in, you may have to pivot your thinking. And
Okay.
someone who's stubborn in a specific way of thinking may not be appropriate in a given circumstance, and you need to change your method of thinking, and if you don't, you're doing a disservice to yourself and doing a disservice to finding the ultimate truth.
Okay, so I think I agree with your overall idea, but I'm caught up on one thing that you said is that you said there's the goal of thinking is to find objective truth, and there's an objective methodology for thinking. And then you said,
I made that mistake. I don't know
okay,
if
fine, all right. I think the goal of thinking is to find objective truth, and even though you may have a good method, in certain areas, there are other areas or situations where you have to change your method. Uh, and again, the one thing I'm just slightly just not understanding here. So the bogeid here is someone who is betraying what?
betraying truth.
Okay, so and if you don't, then that's not the way of a thinker, but the way of a bogeid.
A
Okay,
stubborn
which
fool.
is stubborn. Okay, yeah. All right, I like this idea. Yeah. So let me just read it through and see if it works out. Oh, then what is the chain?
Well, favor is truth. The
Favor.
favor intellect. Yeah, I mean isn't that
What,
good? Isn't the
Well,
favor?
I don't know. I mean, favor sounds like it sounds like it could have said truth. Like favor generally means
Well, the truth
like
is favorable to individual. Whatever the truth is, it is favorable to individual. I mean, that could be dependent on what you're looking for. Given it's not. I mean, truth is just more.
okay. What's bothering me is like it feels like that last point is currently is shoehorned in. Like if this is about finding truth, it should say that. And chen is a word we use. Esther found chen in the eyes of Achashverosh, or God. We describe God as relating to us with chen, chesed, and rachamim. Like, chen has to do with like giving goodness. So I feel like you probably have a good way to say that. Like can I venture?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay, fine. Let me try it this way. Meaning, like, if you if you're a good thinker, you will be naturally giving chen to people around you based off of how you conduct yourself. I mean,
Okay, I think there's a much simpler
right, I give up.
explanation that's consistent with your idea. Okay, which is that anyone want to try salvaging that word according to Ariel's good explanation?
These are party hats, people. Let's go.
You know the system. Okay, I think this is really good, which is that like so say your method of thinking, the reason it has to say good is because of a bad way of thinking. If you employ the right way of thinking in the right situation, okay, people will like you and get along with you because you produce good results. Okay. And then but if you like stubbornly insist on your method and you're going in the wrong way, then you'll be hold on a second, that's not the way of a thinker, but the way of a bogeid. Then people will like clash with you. Okay, that's the bogeid of like they'll have like this firm, strong thing and view you as stubborn. Okay, in other words, that you're going to get good results and it's going to be harmonious with what people want if you use good thinking. But if you just stick to the way of doing things, then you're gonna meet obstacle after obstacle, and you're just gonna be like encounter opposition. Yeah, Rifki.
Yeah, so I was also like thinking, I mean, I think Ariel said it very well, and I was thinking about this for what my idea was, so I'm not
Go ahead, sure.
But like a specific example that I was thinking when I was thinking about the pasuk was like, let's say if you're someone's boss, which obviously is like very common, like a lot of people have people under them in terms of employment.
Yeah.
And like if someone has a situation where let's say they need an extension on something or whatever it is, that if you speak to that employee and you're like, oh, well, like this is why you need it and you understand why, and you actually like give them that extension if it's good reasoning, then like you're saying that they're going to understand and appreciate that and have a good relationship, which will enhance the system, as opposed to if you don't and you're just like, no, like those people, we all know those people that see things in a very, very black and white manner.
Yeah.
And they're just like betraying that relationship, and then it's going to be bad for everyone involved, and people aren't going to see you as someone who's helpful and understanding.
Okay, now one thing I'm not sure about is, and I don't know if if this is just the way you said it, or if you're actually saying something different, is you said providing like showing the reason for it, and Ariel, so that would seem to say if you like display good reasoning to people, or provide them with good reasoning. Ariel seemed to be saying if you think about the problem with good reasoning. So are you saying a different thing, like if you show them good reasoning? Or was that just
I think that was just me not being clear.
Okay.
I understood what Ariel was saying. I was
Yeah.
just like meaning if they gave you good reasoning, like because they obviously can't just give people whatever they want depending on, because then you're going to be hurting yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I hear the example. Yeah. Okay. Good. Idea. You're up.
Okay. So the way I'm thinking about this is that like someone who is a bogeid in general, like so they're betraying people or acting treacherously. So why are they doing that? So I would think it comes from like a certain like thinking of them, they're like sort of more important or better than other people, and so their ideas are more worthy of following than what the system is like saying should be followed or what other people say it should be followed.
Okay.
So that gives them a trait of like stubbornness, of like even if it's not necessarily a situation of betraying, they still are betraying. They still are like they value what they think over what other people think.
Right.
And so they're always going to value their own opinion over other opinions and not take advice, like not
I'll
generally
use the
like
word overriding.
yeah, they'll be thought of as like a stubborn person. Whereas if you're a person with a seik al tov, which is someone who views thought and decision making from a more objective place,
Yeah.
so then you're going to be able to like I guess accept criticism and go along with what other people are doing when it makes sense. And so you're going to be viewed as someone who is more gracious and is more like, not like full of it and stubborn with what they're doing.
Okay, so you know what's interesting about this? So I think your idea and Ariel's idea are very similar in the thrust of the decision making, but Ariel is taking seichel as like oh wait, no, I just lost it. Yeah, Ariel's taking seichel as the main thing, and then defining bogeid as the opposite of that. And you're taking, I think, bogeid as the fundamental, and then defining the use of seichel in the pasuk like that. So I think both of them are true, and both of them have a similar pattern to them. So these are complementary ideas. I realized that there's another translation of seichel. I think you can also translate seichel as success. Let's just see if this is in the BDB. Prudence, insight, understanding, cunning. No, there is a pasuk. It's a rarer meaning. Okay, but we're fine. So we'll I guess we'll just keep this as it is. Okay, Ayala, you're up.
Okay, so I think
Oh, sorry. Yeah, what was that?
Sorry, can I say something about Isaiah's idea?
Yes.
Okay. I think this is an interesting explanation because I feel like there's a problem with the pasuk that I didn't get to ask when we were asking questions, which is that you think a treacherous person is not, they're like flexible, they're like unreliable,
Uh-huh.
It's the opposite of stubborn and strong.
Right.
And so it's kind of like where is this quality in the bogeid? And I think it's interesting that what Isaiah is saying is the thing that they're staunch on is like their own opinions and their own way of doing things, even though they're inconsistent vis-a-vis other people.
Okay, that's a good point. So this answers the question. Isn't a bogeid like the opposite of a firm? Isn't he willing to play fast and loose with like loyalties? Okay, and the answer is he is staunchly a supporter of himself and his own objectives, and is unyielding to other considerations. Yeah, that's good. And I think I have on my. Oh no, I'll go there later as a last resort. I was going to say I want to see where he appears on my Mishlei spectrum chart, because it's the way we're describing the bogeid now is it really does seem like a Russia, in a sense, because we define the Russia as someone who basically imposes his own selfish system on to reality with the purpose of glorifying himself. I would say the only difference between the Russia and the way that Isaiah is describing the bogeid is the bogeid might not have an articulated vision. It just might be like a self over everyone else, whereas the Russia has an actual like plan to glorify himself and to attain greatness. So bogeid could be like a Russia at an earlier stage of development. All right, good. I'm already happy with how tonight has gone, because we have two good ideas that do seem to fit into the pasuk, and they complement each other. So I like that. Okay, next is my dad. If you don't come up with a good idea, then we've ruined the night. No.
I want to start by saying the bogeid is not necessarily evil.
Okay, that's interesting. That's a good point. Yeah.
It depends on what you're rebelling against.
Right.
And so I'm looking at this in terms of what do you need to do to get the approval and the action of the masses? Is
Okay.
intelligence adequate? Even if your intelligence, you're making intelligent arguments that that show grace and favor and that are elegant, in order to make the change, you need to act like the bogeid acts. You need to be able to
Interesting.
be treacherous, and you need to be strong and
Okay,
firm.
that's very interesting. Okay, so this is not describing two opposites or even two decisions. This is describing one positive quality. Is that what you're saying? Okay,
Yes.
so in other words, hold on a second. So the way to read it here is good intelligence grants favor, but only when when one follows, when one is strong like the way of the bogeid, or something like that. I might not be the exact thing, so so is intelligence sufficient? No. You also need to act definitively and boldly in
And
the manner.
persistently,
Saying
persistently.
okay. Okay, so where are you getting persistently from?
Well, you say strong, firm, hard, staunch, stubborn.
Right,
I
but
mean-
how is persistent like a bogeid, like a traitor?
Well, that the level of motivation and the willingness to act of the traitor is what I'm describing.
Okay,
Someone who's willing, there's one who's willing to show himself as rebelling against
Okay.
the authorities.
Okay, so you need to act as boldly and persistently as the traitor, as a traitor does, but for a good cause. I mean, examples of that. I feel like there are good examples of this in real life or in Tanakh. Anyone think of any?
I'm thinking of Russian Jews, that, it looked like they would, never be able to get, to get the freedoms they wanted and things like that. And it wasn't just presenting the beauty of Judaism, the good ideas of Judaism. They really had to fight the system.
Interesting. I guess I just don't know enough about them to relate to that example. But yeah, it might be a good example. Anyone have any other examples? I'm particularly interested in cases from Tanakh. I feel like there are a couple. So the first person I thought of is
Yaakov and Lavan?
say again?
Like Yaakov and Lavan or Asa?
How were they doing this? How were they winning the favor of the masses?
Oh no, never mind.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah, so I think Esther is a good example, right? So she, I mean, she didn't want to at first, but then when she and Mordecai had the discussion, she went in defiantly and implemented her plan. She appeared before the king without being summoned, and she presented her plan, boldly, and like, I'm sure there was a lot of inner doubt and opposition, but like she went forward with that. Or another one maybe is Pinchas, which was that he, no one else was willing to act when they saw the public, act of defiance to Moshe, and he just went up and speared them, and that resulted in this reward of being, having a covenant of eternal peace, yeah.
I have another one.
Yeah.
Boaz.
Yeah, how so?
Because the Plony didn't want to be with Russ, but
Yeah.
Boaz acted boldly and went against the status quo.
Okay, good. Yeah.
The whole thing.
Okay, yeah, sure. I think that's a good example. All right, so this is a clever reading of the puzzle. Okay, I like it. All right, Ayala, you're next.
Okay, so I think where my idea differs is in the translation of bogeid.
Yeah.
So I want to take that as like I think this translation has been used in like previous Mishlei shiurim, but as like internally inconsistent.
Yeah.
And so then I want to say that good intelligence is someone who thinks through things rationally and relies on that, I guess, for decision making, either decision making scenarios or in general, like thinking ideas.
Yeah.
And they will be able to give grace or favor to other people's ideas because they're not going to be threatened by them at all. So they'll be able to hear everyone out and take input, whereas the bogedim, who are internally inconsistent, will feel very threatened if anyone else has like any other ideas, because it's going to kind of like show their inconsistency. And so they're going to be strong and firm in their ideas. And I think this could be like talking to the person who either would have good intelligence or be bogeid, but also to spot bogedim. Like if you see someone who's like not willing to listen to other people at all and is just like stubborn in their beliefs, I think you can kind of know that that's probably a bogeid.
Okay, hold on a second. So this is both for the aspiring, or I guess the person who has the potential to become either one, or for someone to be able to spot a bogeid if they sense this quality of of like shutting other people's ideas down. One thing I just want to make sure I get, and I didn't really I just want to make sure I understand. What makes the bogeid feel threatened by other people's ideas?
I think that like because he doesn't really think things through, he's just like inconsistent in whatever, I guess whatever fits for him in the moment, or like whatever other convenient thing, then like if someone is like proposing an alternative that like it's kind of gonna end up showing the flaws in his reasoning and the inconsistencies in his thinking and like topple down whatever he was saying.
Okay. Other people presenting good ideas will expose the gaps in his thinking. I feel like we need to concretize this in an example. But actually, I should ask Ariel, did you want to add to this, or you have something else?
No, I'm Derek Nestor.
Okay. All right. So can we come up with an example of this? I feel like I know the phenomenon you're talking about, but
I could even like give an example from class that happened to me recently
Sure.
where like I had a question on like one of the test questions that my teacher gave back that we were going over. And when
yeah.
I started asking him a question, he like the professor just wouldn't, he just like said something quickly and then like moved on because like he didn't want to like recognize it or like think about that there may be something wrong in his question. So he just like brushed over really quickly.
Yeah, that's a good but unfortunate example. Yeah. Yeah, that is really good. I'm trying to think of hold on just a second. Oh man, I had a good example that just left, but that is a good example. Yeah, so let me just make sure that this reads correctly. So seichel tov, if you act based on and thinking things through, and you have that internal consistency, and therefore your actions are not going to be haphazard, or they're not going to be just on a whim and then not backed up by any thinking. So then you'll be able to listen and acknowledge other people when they have good ideas, because their ideas don't threaten to expose anything in you. But if you are a bogeid and you are this hypocritical, inconsistent, like, I'll do this way and I'll do this that way type of person, then those same ideas will elicit a harsh response from you. Yeah, that's the part I'm missing. This will elicit a harsh response from you as a defense mechanism. Okay, that's good. All right, I like that. All right. Ariel wants to do a derech nister, an esoteric explanation. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe you could say that like just using your internal system, where we struggle within ourselves, and applying it into like the world. Like I guess for instance, like the contradiction that we have within ourselves are like our emotional feelings and like our mind, right?
Okay.
So maybe you could say that like the bogeid is it's your emotions, challenging your seichel.
Okay.
Right. So so we have to learn how, it's not really fully thought out, but it's just
I
like
like
an
that first
approach.
step.
I
Yeah.
know, I don't know. The problem is the rest of the mile is
Yeah. Yeah.
hard, but I don't know, maybe you could say that like if maybe like your chachma, and if you use your mind, it'll give it'll for your own perfection, it'll give you chen, versus like if you use your if you use your emotions to guide you, it's just gonna be self-destructive. I don't know, but it sounds so pashut. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I like the
Satisfying.
approach. What we'd have to figure out is we'll say it will grant chen, and then the question is to whom, or to what inside of you. Yeah.
Your nefesh.
Now we're just throwing in terms. Okay, let's look at. Okay, these are all good ideas. I'm really happy with what we have so far. Now let's look at some of Farshim and see if they are also gonna yield ideas. Okay, so we're gonna do Metsudas, David, Rubin, Yona, Meiri, and then we'll consider stopping for tonight because this was a long day. Okay, Metsudas David says Hasechal Tov Sheish La'adam. So the good intelligence that a person has. Yitin oso l'chein be'enei kol. will result in him finding favor in the eyes of everyone. V'im kol zeh, but despite this, or with this, I'll have to see how it goes. Derech habogdim hu chazak ma'od. The way of the bogdim is very strong. V'lo yo'il bal hasechal im sichlo v'rav chino lahasira miderechahu. Wow. And the possessor of intelligence will not be able to the possessor of intelligence, despite his great intellect and his abundant favor, will not be able to remove the bogdim from that path. So that's a very interesting one. So he's saying that basically, if you have seichel tov, so then you're going to find favor in the eyes of everyone. And I think that's like what I was saying for Ariel, or what Isaiah was saying, meaning that you're going to naturally, like, or even what I always say, you're naturally going to bring out the best in people. You're going to harmonize with them. The results will speak for themselves. So the normal, unbiased person will be drawn to you for your ideas. Okay. But the bogeid is strong, and I think he's clearly using the word strong, like stubborn. Okay. Stubborn, and they're not going to be won over. Okay. So the question is, what is the who's the audience and what's the practical application? I think the audience is clear. What does it sound like it's for? Yeah, Ayala?
Would it be for the person with good intelligence, telling them not to waste their energy on the bogeid?
Exactly. Right. This is advice for the person with good intelligence. Okay. Telling them not to waste their energy, and pointing out a delusion. Sorry, not a delusion, a mistake they might make. Okay. Namely, if I just explain it in clear enough terms, then they'll come around. Okay. So this is like the misguided belief in the power of logic. And this is why, Rivki, maybe you already sensed this when I was asking you the question. This is why, like, I was like, are you really saying that if you present good arguments to someone, then that's going to make them come around? Like, I wish people were that persuaded by logic, but you weren't saying that. And someone was telling the intelligent person not to think that, So it's like, there are people, no matter how smart you are, no matter how good the arguments there are, you're not going to be able to win them over because they're too entrenched in their ways. And I think this can plug into different definitions of bogeid. Like, I don't think he's telling us an idea of bogeid. This could plug into the definition of bogeid of Ariel, where like they're set in their thinking. It could be like Isaiah, where they are right, where they just want to put themselves first no matter what. It could fit into my dad's my dad, I keep on saying my dad is not treating bogeid as a bad person. It's fit into Ayala's, where the bogeid is internally threatened and they just don't want to let people expose that. So yeah, but the mistake is this is talking to the student of Mishlei who is trying to implement good seichel and saying he's going to get results, but you can't get results with everyone. Yeah. Okay, that's good. All right, next is Rבינו Yonah. Okay, I'm very curious about this. Okay, Rבינו Yonah. Oops, sorry. Gotta get the right font. Still font. Okay, hold on. What am I doing? I'm clicking all the wrong things. Okay, there we go. Rבינו Yonah. Okay, so he says, Seichel Tov, good intelligence. Seichel ha'emes yitin chen, true intelligence. I don't know if it's Seichel ha'emes, if that's true intelligence or comprehension of the truth. Let's say true intelligence grants favor. Yiskabel al hashomim bli rayos. Interesting. Namely, it will be accepted by the hearers without proofs. Ki ha'emes yoredarko, because the truth points its way. Okay, so that's interesting. So he means something that, like, there are certain types of. Okay, let's not say yet. I don't know what he's saying yet. Okay, b'derech bogdim esan, and the way of bogdim is strong. Hatonim mirma. Okay, so those who make false claims, uma'amikim laharos lapanim be'esan utokif, and they strive with deep cunning, I'll say, to present strong and forceful appearances. Uvatokif haraos panim v'am talaos, and through their forceful presentation of appearances and rationalizations, amasla is like a rationalization, yachrichu lev hashomim, they will force or compel or coerce the hearts of the listeners, lahamim b'tanosam, to believe their claims. Okay, so this is one idea. He's going to give another idea. Okay, so this is very interesting, right? So what do you think the subject is here? What is the subject and what's the main idea? What do you say? Ezra Raphael was trying to say an idea.
That's correct. I think the theme is like people who have real ideas to convey versus people who have false ideas they're trying to convey.
Yeah.
Like tricking people.
Yeah, right. Okay, so what's the so what would you say the I guess practical advice is?
I mean, people could see through your garbage.
But he's saying that they're not.
Oh, really?
Right? He's
I
saying
thought
that they
he was saying-
will force
I think
the hearts of listeners to believe their claims.
I think it's telling you how to notice it. Like if you see someone forcefully trying to sell their idea, then it might be false.
Okay. I think that's a good approach, right? So the phenomenon is pointing out the phenomenon of like I guess okay, I'll just say a phenomenon of rhetoric. Okay, rhetoric meaning the art of persuasion. Okay, which is okay, if an idea is really good. Now, this does not mean that okay, if an idea is really good, then this is the case, but this is not necessarily a test of what ideas are good. Okay, so in other words, there are ideas that don't fit into this. If an idea is really good, it will speak for itself. But if it's not really good, then the one who pitches it will have to sell it really forcefully. Okay, so if you see someone desperately trying to pitch their idea in forceful terms, that's a red flag. Okay, and the good ideas will speak for themselves. I heard a episode of the Tim Ferriss podcast. I don't remember who it was with because I listened to a bunch of them. But I think he was saying that like, I know it was an ad guy. It was an advertising guy. And he said, hold on a second. Let me actually want to see if I could find it. Because it was really good. Okay. It was advertising. Nope. Commercial. Nope. Ad. Oh, maybe it was an old episode. That's why. A little more podcasts. It was. Oh yeah. No. Ad. Commercial. I'm going to mute my mom because I could hear her. Where is this? It was just. Oh, here we go. Chris Beresford Hill. And he said like this is, nope, hold on a second. Pitch. Oh man, I can't find it. I'll have to post it in the chat afterwards. Let me try one more term. CEO. Basically what he said was that when you are pitching an idea to someone who really, really knows their field, like let's say it's the CEO of a company or like someone who knows advertising, which was in this case, the worst thing you could do when you give them your portfolio or the idea is say, this is a great idea. You're not going to believe how good this is. Because as soon as you start trying to sell your idea through external pitches, they know that the idea doesn't stand on its own, you know? So like, you got to let the idea speak for itself. And that'll win them over. Okay. My mom had something to say. Yeah.
It calls to mind an old saying, something like an empty jar rattles the loudest.
Yeah.
And also the fact the second point was, and not being judgmental, but like tent preachers or traveling salespeople, they are almost always portrayed, you know, haranguing and constantly talking, because if you let the customer get in a word at edgewise, he might find something wrong with
Right.
what you're saying.
Yeah, right.
And
so
then-
there's definitely, I think that is the type of strong arming that they try to do, is like, it is possible to like force someone to accept something just based on sheer bullying, you know, intellectual bullying. Yeah.
And also, when I was an office manager many years ago in real estate, this new salesperson came in my office to sell me a copier, and he was barking at me and so forceful and had so many things to say.
Yeah.
I finally said, "Can I ask you something?" And he said, "Sure." I said, "Can you turn around and walk out the door, because you're not being a good salesperson, because you're not even giving me time to listen to what you're saying or
Right.
ask questions about your product."
Right.
So again,
Yeah. All right. Those good examples. Tamar, did you have your, I saw a party thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to explore. I feel like there's a lot of different, maybe this is just like the types of things that are kinds of rhetoric, but I feel like there's a lot of different ways that somebody can have like a strong argument. Like I think there's a category of arguments where it's like, you're a bad person if you don't already agree with me.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I feel like if we look,
Yeah.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I feel like there's many examples like the examples that were given before, but I think it's another example.
Yeah, I think if we look through the list of fallacies, then you'll find some of them that fit into this category, that certain fallacies a person like falls into or are subtle, and certain fallacies are like wielded like a blunt object. And what you're saying is an example of that. What was I in that I forgot if I recommended it in this year, but the book The Canceling of the American Mind, about cancel culture. He has a term that is used or he's sorry, a category of techniques that's used by the left, and he calls them thought terminating cliches, which are phrases that they could throw out that are designed to just shut down all thought, you know. So like one of them is I don't have the book with me, and I read it a while ago. The only one I remember is not the best example, is like punching down, but that's not the most used one. But there are these types of things. The one that you said is really an example. That's what brought to mind of like you know, oh, I know one he said, like, don't you want to be on the right side of history? You know, that it's just designed to just intellectually bully the other person. Like there's nothing they could, like, if you're arguing against the person, what are they going to say? Like, no, I want to be on the wrong side of history, you know? But I feel like people do that in sales, in selling their ideas as well, of like just saying stuff that is designed to like, well, any decent person would want this, you know? So yeah, that's a good point. Okay, Ariel.
Yeah, I just wanted to get more clarity on this idea, because meaning, what's the difference between someone who just doesn't know how to sell their product versus selling it forcibly, but in reality it's a good product? So like,
right.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's what I'm struggling with here, which is that not every good idea does speak for itself. Like there is such a thing as a good idea that you need to be on a certain level to see, or you need to be shown that the thing works. Like, you know, if you look around, there are, you know, over 1 billion Christians and 1 billion Muslims and much fewer Jews, you know? So the idea of a one God who is not physical and who you can't relate to, and you know, and 613 mitzvahs, you know, might be a good idea, but it's not very, it doesn't sell itself, you know? But other ideas do. And all I can say right now is we're talking about that class of ideas, but I don't know. Okay, maybe I'll take one more step, okay, which is that he says true intelligence gives You know, you might be saying true intelligence gives for free or gives freely. So I think there is a thing that hold on a second. My favorite essay on teaching and learning is by Mortimer Adler on teaching and learning. And he says, all learning is by instruction or by discovery. That is with or without the aid of teachers. Teachers who serve as instructors may be alive and in direct contact with those with whom they instruct, as is always the case in classrooms. Okay, that's getting into too much. Hold on a second here. Okay, but I'm not going to read through the whole thing. He goes on to say basically that like, oh yeah, here we go. Yeah. So all learning is either by instruction or by discovery. That is with or without the aid of teachers. But then he says that yeah, here we go. And therefore, all active learning is of two kinds: either unaided discovery, discovery without the aid of teachers on the one hand, and aided discovery, or discovery deliberately assisted by teachers on the other. In both cases, the principal cause of learning is activity on the part of the learner engaged in the process of discovery. When instruction occurs, the teacher is at best only an instrumental cause operating to guide or facilitate the process of discovery on the part of the learner. To suppose that the teacher is ever more than an instrumental cause is to suppose that the activity of a teacher can by itself suffice to cause learning to occur in another person, even though the latter remains entirely passive. This would view the learner as a patient being acted upon rather than as an agent whose activity is both primary and indispensable. In contrast, the instrumental activity of the teacher is always secondary and indispensable. So what this means in English is that Adler believes this, and I believe this also, is that like the only way to teach is for the student to arrive at this conclusion with their own mind. So the most a teacher can do is optimally create the conditions where the student will reach this realization on their own. So any attempt to force a student to accept something is not teaching, but is indoctrination. It's like pushing an idea into someone's mind by violence, you know? So what this is saying, I think, so this is one step further than I was saying before, is that true intelligence is the ability, there's a conviction that the human mind can see the truth. It's just that there are certain obstacles and blinders, but if you can help the person who you're talking to like set aside their biases and then let the idea speak for itself, they will naturally be persuaded on their own self. You won't have to force anything, So I think that's the role, Ariel. I don't know if you're still there. That the role is to facilitate the other person's independent realization of this idea on their own. And the most you can do is create those conditions. But I think these techniques of like forcing them is really just trying to like get them to see something that they're not seeing, or get them to like feel something they're not feeling, or get them to like assent to something that they're not assenting to, to say yes. So it's a little bit clearer, I think. I mean, is this helping at all or not? Okay. All right. Next is my dad.
So looking at what Rabbeinu Yonah commented, made me think of the play The Music Man.
Yeah.
And that was the example of the guy coming in and convincing everyone, to buy his false thoughts.
Right. Yeah, it's a good example also of Ayala's, because the play for those who don't know The Music Man, he basically, this traveling salesman who like had this thing that he called the think system, which is that you don't have to practice the musical instrument. All you have to do is think through the music. And then when the time comes, you'll be able to just play it automatically. And like, he basically convinced everyone to buy instruments and to buy like marching band outfits. And he convinced the whole town to get into this. And like, he basically convinced people, don't play your instruments because that's going to be bad for you. The more you think it through, then the better it's going to be. So it was the power of like bullying them into accepting it, but also like Ayala's thing of he had to use this force because he couldn't be exposed. Like if anyone tried to like actually do this, it would expose him, That's a good example. Okay.
I feel like there's a quality of a Russia.
Yeah, definitely. Well, so the thing is if it's a good Russia, like if it's a Russia that is effective, they'll do it in a much more subtle way. Like
it's a charming Russia.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I do think that bogeid, even though I don't have a full understanding of bogeid, the way we've been describing bogeid tonight, this seems to be a quality of a bogeid. Like I think a Russia would be more intelligent than this. Okay, let's do Revino has a second idea. which I haven't read yet. So Rabbeinu Yonah says, "V'ulam nachon lefarish." However, so he likes this one better. He's trying to sell us this idea. Okay, it's better to explain it this way. Okay, so seichel tov, good intelligence, v'hu seichel emes o seichel hamitztaref lepoal, which is true intelligence or intelligence that I guess translates into action. Mitzvah means is combined with action. Seichel tov l'chol osehem, as it says. So he's bringing linguistic proof in Tehillim. Good intelligence to all who implement it. Okay, so that is in Tehillim 111:10, which indicates that this is like actionable. Okay, Yitain Chain grants favor. Sorry, hold on a second. Grants favor lebalav, to its possessors. Okay, not to other people. Ki yahavuhu levavos umabitim elav habrios be'ein hahidur. Because people hearts will love him, and they will look, and people will look towards him. People will look towards him with an eye of beautification. I mean, I think they're going to like beautification. I'm missing an A, and I'm beautification. Yeah, I think it means that they will attribute like this almost like this aura of goodness to him because of his intellect. Okay, we'll see how this works. But the way of bogdim is a son. Okay, so what is this? Kvodam vishayam. Oh man, my Rabbeinu Yonah Spidey sense is telling me that is a faulty Rabbeinu Yonah text, and I don't have the Torah line here. So take that with a grain of salt. Their glory and their, I don't know what shayam is, their blank, einenu rak betokif uvahatalas ema, only consists in their forcefulness and in their intimidation, use of intimidation. O miyiras habrios es kocham, or people fearing their strength, the otzim yadam, and power. O es kavod oshram, or their the glory of their wealth. Umachnifim lehem, and they will flatter them. Umazayfim lechabdam, and give them counterfeit honor. V'lo shiyode lev hamachabdim osam al kavodam, not that the hearts of those who honor them will actually honor them and glorify them in their heart, in their thoughts. Okay, well, I'll summarize that in a second. And then Asan is Shem Davar, noun. V'chein v'teshiv be'asan kashto. Okay, fine. So that just means it's a noun. Okay, so the way the bogim is strength. Okay, so what is he saying here? So it sounds like he's saying, actually, I'll ask you, what is his main idea? And what is the practical application? What would you say? What's the subject?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like there's, intelligence that you just have for the sake of intelligence, like in the abstract, versus like using the intelligence to implement it. And like intelligence is only good if you use it to change your behavior, That's
a true point, but I think the subject is entirely different here. What are both halves of the pasuk? What both people in both halves of the pasuk trying to get? Yeah, Isaiah?
Like the honor of other people.
Yeah, so this is exactly like what my dad was saying, which is winning the approval of the masses. Okay, so the subject is how to win people's approval. Okay, so if you like this first half, I think is what we said before. If you utilize good intelligence in action, okay, people will naturally respect you. And I'm gonna add in parentheses, even though he doesn't say this, because the results will speak for themselves. Okay, but so there is a way to coerce honor, okay, or sorry, many ways. There are many ways to coerce honor through like various forms of strength and strong arming. But what's the what is Mishlei pointing out? What's the lack in those? Yeah, Ayala?
They're not actually honoring you. Outwardly they may be, but like they don't actually think of you.
They're not actually honoring you in their minds and hearts, okay? Only in their actions. Right. And I think the famous example of this, or most extreme example I know is let me see if I could read it. Famous anecdote about Stalin and applause. Yeah. So I don't know if this is a reliable site, but I've heard the anecdote before. So let's see, the applause. After Joseph Stalin gave his speech at a conference for the Communist Party in 1937, the audience exploded into applause. Everyone in the room leapt to their feet and began to clap wildly. Some seemed to be in a contest of who could stand and clap the fastest. Yet the big question soon came, who would have the nerve to stop clapping first? After a few minutes, nobody showed the courage to stop, and so the applause went on. The clapping sound continued nonstop for 11 minutes. Finally, one man had enough and stopped clapping. As soon as he sat down, the frenzied audience also quieted down. Soon the room was completely silent. Later that night, the man who stopped clapping first was arrested and sentenced to 10 years in prison. Authorities reportedly told him, don't ever be the first one to stop clapping. So this is an example where, like, I mean, this was the climate of fear that existed in the Soviet Union. Contrast that with, I'm almost done rereading from my childhood, Leonard Bernstein biography. And there were several occasions mentioned in the biography where, you know, the minute, I don't know how many people have been to a classical music concert, and I don't know how this is for other concerts, but like there's the phenomenon of like an encore where like the musician, you know, is applauded and then they go off stage and then people keep clapping and then the musician comes back on and takes another bow and then goes off stage and then comes back on. And basically like either they eventually stop clapping or they get their encore where the musician will perform something else. Regularly, Leonard Bernstein, who was a famous conductor, would get these 45-minute encores or 55-minute encores. These are the people who genuinely loved him and wanted to see more. So they actually genuinely kept clapping. And that's like in contrast to this like prop type clapping where it's just totally propped up by fear. Yeah. Okay, so that's really good. So this is a good, you know, this is a good practical advice. Okay, I don't think most of us are like Stalin, but like, you know, be careful, you know, how you demand honor, okay? Because it could just be external and be backed by nothing but fear or resentment, which is not what you want, okay? And so you're not actually getting the real honor. I think if you ask Stalin what he really wants, I mean, yeah, he wanted obedience. What he really wants is for people to think he's great. Like that's what he really wants in his heart of hearts. But he's not going to get that through like this this tactic. Yeah, Ella.
I feel like this also applies to parenting, where parents will be doing this, and then like the kid leaves the house and like all rules are gone.
That's a great, yeah, practical advice. Yeah, for this is also true for parents. Yeah, that's good. Okay, let me just see how long the Meiri is. All right, I'm gonna go with Meiri because I'm excited enough to let the adrenaline carry me through, and then I gotta stop. So the Meiri, if you have to go, you have to go. The Meiri says, it's a short Meiri actually. Meiri says, interesting. So this is general advice to obey the words of a chacham and not rebel against his rebuke and words. Didn't we have advice pasuk in our recent one? Yeah, Torah chacham makor chaim l'surmi mokshe maves. The teaching of a chacham is a wellspring of life to turn away from the what he calls of death, the snares of death. Yeah, so he's continuing that subject. Okay, the Omar, he said, seichel tov, good intelligence. Ratzalomar, meaning to say, shlemus seichel hachacham, the perfection of a chacham's intelligence. Yitain chen, gives favor be'ene kol ro'av, in the eyes of all who see, v'chol shamav, and all and who hear. Ad shemichukam lios nishmaim l'dvarav, to the point where they are in the habit of they make it a habit. They make it a habit of obeying his words. Vakar hamasarev bogeid, and the rebel, against his words, or against the resistant person, the recalcitrant person is called a bogeid. Okay, ki habegida, because begida, mila munachas al hayos adam meshakir bebris mishu mechuya bechvodo, is a term used for falsifying an agreement with someone whom you are obligated to honor. Im l'chachmaso, whether for his wisdom, v'im liyisron alav, or for his advantage, some superiority he has. Imitzar bris kruso benem, or for some actual agreement. Valze Amar, regarding this, he said, Derek Bodim Esan, the way of the Bogdim is firm. Okay, Klomar, meaning Shadarcham Kasha Milivratimino, their way is hard to separate from. Okay, in other words, I think he means like they have a hard time breaking that habit. Therefore, he's here. He warns us not to become entrenched in them. For if he does this, he won't be able to break free. Again, so like it says, this is the famous pasuk, train the youth according to his way, and even when he is old, he will not deviate from it. That's Mishlei 22:6. Okay, Amar Hanavi. Okay, so he goes through more examples. Hayahafoch kushi oro v'namer chavurosav. Can an Ethiopian change his skin? Can a leopard change his spots? Meaning like gam atem lo tuchlu lehetiv limude hara. So too, you cannot change people who are in the habit of doing bad. Uvadrash amru. Okay, so there's a drush that says la'adam shu hayashat al pnei hamayim. It compares it to a person who's swimming on the water. Omri lo me'ad pahalicha shlo tiagia b'chazara. You should go slowly, otherwise you'll get tired out on your way back. Anyone who is definitive in averos will not be able to return in tshuva and will not have forgiveness forever. All right, fine. So I'm not sure what he's doing at the end of that, but that's a drasha anyway. So the first part sounds like he's saying that it's an interesting interpretation. He's saying that the more you obey a chacham, so he's saying that naturally speaking, a chacham's words will find favor, and the more you obey it, the more you're going to have a habit of obeying it. But with a bogeid who is constantly violating agreements or violating honor, then that's going to be harsh to break. I don't know what he's saying, though. I don't know what he's getting at. And I'm frankly not interested in this because I like other approaches better. And I'm really tired. So I think let's stop for tonight. If you have an idea, you can tell me. I thought this was going to be more Meiri-ish. Okay, so let's review our ideas. Okay, so we had Ariel's approach, which is that Seichel Tov is referring to good method of thinking, but even the good method of thinking, if you cling to it stubbornly, then it's going to be reversed, and you're going to clash with people, and they're going to view you as stubborn. Whereas if you have a good way of thinking and a good and you adapt, then it's going to produce harmonious relationships and good results. Isaiah was saying that Bogdim are people who basically like force their way onto every system, even if it means like betraying trust and violating arguments or agreements, and that type of person, is going to meet resistance. Whereas if you have a Seichel Tov, then you're going to be gracious and you're going to have harmonious relationships with people. So again, very, very similar, but just different. Are we talking about purely intellectual quality, or are we talking about more relationships in the system? My dad said that good intelligence does find favor, but you have to act boldly on it, and be willing to like buck the trend or go against the what people are thinking. Ayala said that the bogeid is the person who's internally inconsistent. That's based on our way we learned it in chapter 11. And people who are internally inconsistent and not really thinking things through are always going to be afraid of being found out. So they're going to like shut down any opposition or any questions. Whereas someone who uses seichel tov and thinks things through doesn't have anything to fear. So he's going to be willing to like grant favor to other people's ideas and hear them and like, and not be threatened. Then we had Metudas David, who says that this is saying that no matter how good your intelligence is, you're not going to be able to win over someone who is bogeid, so don't even try. And the Rabbeinu Yonah's first idea said that this is talking about how to sell an idea. Ideally, let it speak for itself, or position the person where they'll see it themselves. That's, again, a classical negotiation technique where you position the other person to the point where they think they came up with the idea themselves. Okay, that is fully explored in the movie Inception. And then the way the bogeid is to like really just force them to agree with something or force them to force your arguments on them. Second Rabbeinu Yonah idea is that if you use good intelligence and you implement it, people will look at you with admiration, and they'll naturally honor you and actually honor you. But if you force them to behave towards you in honorable ways, then that's just going to lead to this counterfeit honor, and they're not actually going to look up to you. Okay, we came up with good ideas. This is very good, and we didn't have to like fully like go through all the pasukim about bogeid, and like this one I think did emerge. I mean, I know Ayala was relying on what we said before, but I think the other ideas do emerge from the pasuk naturally. Like I think we could have figured those out as we did, or as the Mefarshim had. Okay, very good. Thanks for coming, and Bli Neder next week.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.